AI in Action, a new podcast series from Halldale Group, which looks at how civil aviation, military, and other safety-critical industries are adopting AI in training.
Artificial intelligence is not magic. It's a great marketing term, but it's not artificial and it's not intelligent.
It's the trust and the adoption side of AI that is actually the most important aspect of it.
Yes, it's the data extraction that's still the challenge.
AI in Action.
Welcome to this panel discussion addressing AI for workforce training across civil aviation, the military and wider safety critical industries. This is part or first of our series exploring the fast moving world of AI and its role in learning for high risk organisations, such as I've mentioned. I just want to say myself that obviously AI is being discussed widely as a transformative force in workforce training and education. But alongside this enthusiasm and seemingly never-ending developments, there is still much uncertainty, as perhaps we've seen with deep state, affecting the stock market by such a huge degree only in January. And I would say very, very few people know exactly where AI is going, if at all. So it makes discussions like this really important. And whether you are, when it comes to AI, in what you might call a buy-in stage or a believe-in stage, whether you're a user of learning services, a provider, a recipient, or just someone who wants to be informed, we here as a panel are here to help you navigate this world of AI in the context of learning and both the opportunities and challenges. So without further ado, I wanted to first introduce myself. My name is Andy Fawkes. I'm the special correspondent of military simulation training here at Halldale. And I'm delighted really to have three such great experts on this panel whose expertise spans both, in a sense, the technology, but also the application of that technology. And they know firsthand what AI could or is meaning for workforce learning in the safety critical sectors I've mentioned. So first, I'll just start with Rick Adams. He's author of a new book, The Robot in the Simulator, Artificial Intelligence in Aviation Training. He leads the pilot training conference at Halldale's World Aviation Training Summit and is a fellow of the Royal Aeronautical Society. He's an aviation journalist and communicator for more than 40 years. Rick now publishes first AI tailored newsletter for commercial aviation safety and training, and that's called Aviation Voices. Cedric Paillard is the CEO of the Airline Pilot Club, the APC, where he oversees the integration of AI technologies into aviation recruitment and training, with experience in the aviation as an airline pilot, as well as an executive in high-tech companies. Cedric leads APC's development of Amelia, an AI-powered assistant designed to enhance evidence-based training, streamline recruitment, and support competence-based training frameworks. He focuses on leveraging AI to improve outcomes, reduce costs, and accelerate pilot proficiency in safety-critical environments. Lastly, we have Colin Hillier. He's a former Royal Naval officer. His background is in defence and government, exploiting technology to support simulation training and decision support through R&D, as well as implementation of new technologies in established programs. Currently, Colin is the Chief Executive Officer of Mission Decisions, which provides AI services to organisations to leverage human-machine teaming, to unlock the true potential of their most valuable assets, people and data. I'm sure we'll come to that later. So thank you, all of the three of those. So I'm going to frame this discussion, and the speakers will obviously answer the questions, or I'm going to give them, but they're also, this is hopefully a catalyst to a conversation. So we're going to first, and before we get going, we're going to talk about how AI is being used, and in a sense what the panel consider AI, benefits and challenges is our second area, and how we can help you, the listeners and viewers, think about AI going forward and how to navigate this world of AI. So maybe Rick, can I start with you? And this is for all three, but I'll start with you, Rick, and then move to Cedric and then Colin. Could you say to you, I mean, we all know AI has been around a long time, but what does AI mean to you, in a sense, why it's interesting, particularly now? And could you give any examples of where it is actually being used? Rick.
Okay, thank you. Artificial intelligence is not magic. It's a great marketing term, but it's not artificial and it's not intelligent, at least not yet. It can be an extremely useful tool for crunching very large sets of information in a super fast time. I think of it as supercomputing on steroids. In a training or learning context, how useful it is depends on the quality and relevance of the data. It does have the promise of incorporating data that's not previously been available to instructors and providing insights beyond human observation.
Very good, Rick. Cedric.
Hi. Well, I completely agree with Rick. So I think the AI that we know is basically, for me, an intelligent system in a way that, or at least a system that actually allows us to think that we are intelligent, to personalize, optimize, support the training and the recruitment in our case of the pilots. The main difference today when before is that we can analyze large data sets of data. Those data being different in nature. It could be a text that an instructor put on a pilot record, or it could be, you know, the data of a flight, and all of that can actually go into those quote unquote intelligent systems where you can actually combine those data to help the training environment make the right decision and you know, provide real-time feedback, tailor the training to the individual needs, and while ensuring that there is very good alignment with the industry standards and either IATA or EBT, CBTA, ESA, or whatever the standard that is being followed by the airline. So it is an intelligent system in the way that it actually combines those data. There's nothing magic about it, that's for sure.
Right, thank you. Colin.
Yeah, I mean, ask three experts what they think AI is. You can get four answers. So I would sort of softly challenge both those definitions. Yeah, look, I think together it's artificial intelligence. It appears intelligent, but I don't think if we picked humans, something living and breathing, and said what's intelligent, well, it depends on your perspective, doesn't it? You know, probably at least 50% of the population are below average intelligence. Just statistically, that's true, right? So what is intelligence? I guess if we're in a small enough niche, we can get these new models, because let's be clear, AI as a term has been around for at least 40 years. I've had to check my records. You know, it's been around for a lot, but what that we think that is has changed. So I remember coding up in BASIC in 1991, what's something called an AI. It was basically a chatbot. Now, it wasn't. I think if I proposed that as AI today, I'd be laughed out of the room. It was very primitive. It did have an ability to take in data and give a response based on the data. So in that respect, it was AI, but it's nothing like the large language models we have today, right? So I think it's a total spectrum of tools. The danger of all this is using the right tool for the right job. But yeah, AI will, and I'm sure in 10 years' time, generative AI, as we know today, will look primitive, which is a bit scary.
I mean, just from my perspective, I think we passed the Turing test quite a while ago, though, didn't we? So yeah, in some definitions of AI, I was interested. Data's come up a few times. I mean, just picking up on those points. Is this as much as the fact that we can now collect so much data and exploit it quickly that is changing as much as the underlying models? Rick?
Yeah, just to your point, Colin, I think the first use of the term AI came out of the Dartmouth conference in 1956. So 69 years at this point. But my particular lane is the commercial aviation and training. So I look at the variety of things that it can be used for in aviation broadly, such as air traffic management or predictive maintenance analysis and so forth. But from a training standpoint, I've seen people like Airline Pilot Club and others using it for candidate selection, skills development, particularly personalizing, and I'm sure Cedric will have a lot to say about that, and things such as generating scenarios in simulators. But to me, today's AI is essentially going beyond the historical data that's been available from instructors or avionics and adding new dimensions with new types of data.
Yeah, Cedric, would you like to comment on that?
I think this is a new type of data that is interesting with AI today, and the fact that we can combine those new type of data into something that actually makes sense and can help the instructors and can help the head of training of an airline or a flight school, or help the recruitment making the right decision for their airline at the right time and pretty efficiently. You know, the ability to actually read the comment of an instructor and provide some kind of analysis on that comment is helping quite significantly on obviously the evidence-based training type analysis. So I think that's the difference that we are entering now, is the ability to combine in one system using potentially multiple type of AI, machine learning or generative AI, the ability to actually support the instructors, support the development, the team that actually do this training. And it's not a question of replacing someone with someone else within the AI. It's a question of actually providing the right set of data at the right time for making the right decision and aligning the training outcomes or the recruitment outcome with, you know, the objective of the airline or the flight school. And that's where AI has actually accelerated everything for us. So
that's an interesting point about this impacting on all aspects of the airline or the aviation operations and all people. Are you seeing the same thing in the defence sphere, Colin?
I mean, we're working with airline or companies that work with airlines and commercial aviation and defence. I'd say, and this is probably true of all organisations, but what it's exposed is actually the data gap. So there's still a problem if you've got institutional data. Well, what format is that? Most of the time, it's unstructured in PDFs, in text, in a document somewhere, not labelled, not indexed. So the latest crop of generative AI tools actually help us with that, because how did we do that in the past? Well, we use people to structure the data, and that's still the challenge. So the tools, I mean, we don't spend much time on the models, right? The models actually are great, but only as good as the data you feed it. Most of our work is extracting that data. So if we're working with a large organization, how do we get that data? Is it in a simulator? Is it in documents? Is it in some other piece of software that the data is stored, but there's no easy way to get at it because there's no API? So basically, that's about 80 or 90% of our work is extracting that data in a way that the AI, let's call it the AI, can use it. Yeah, we don't spend a lot of time on. I mean, we could spend more time, but we haven't needed to, because the tools are, if you choose the right tool for the job, they perform as expected. But yes, it's the data extraction that's still the challenge.
This is a question to anyone really. Are we seeing some organisations maybe taking more strategic grip of their data to in order to exploit AI?
Yeah, I think so. I think when we combine, when they see, it's a little bit of a feedback loop. When they see what the AI is capable of doing, when the data is actually well organized and structured, and when we treat it properly into the system, and then they actually realize how important it is to organize the data. It's always easier to actually show than tell. So yeah, we see that all the time, and small organization and large organization that we are working with, it's true that, if there is no comment from an instructor on a very specific, issues in the flight, in the simulator, then the AI is not going to guess what that instructor is going to actually say. So we need the information in some form or shape, and it needs to be available. And the more we have that access to that data, the more the AI become useful. So there's definitely a wake-up call, I would say, in the industry about how to organize the data and how to actually make sure that that data is available.
So it could be a good catalyst to doing things better. That's an interesting point. I might just move us along a little bit here. On all these aspects, we could spend literally a whole day, I'm sure, talking about. But in view of time, this is a question more about actual benefits and some of the challenges. So could you think about maybe are we seeing benefits that are just quite incremental here, or are we seeing huge changes in the way learning or training can be delivered, or indeed any change on the actual bottom line of maybe even profitability? Could any of you speak about that? But then also, what are some of the key challenges that you're seeing that need to be overcome? Could I start with you again, Rick, on that one, please?
Yeah, I think one of the key challenges, since ultimately the training comes down to the interaction between student and instructor, one of the challenges is going to be getting instructors to embrace this new technology. In the aviation world, they've been used to doing things a certain way, almost a manual tick the box type of thing, grading system. First of all, they're not going to be quite certain how to use new things like eye track, eye gaze, other biometric sensors. They're going to be skeptical of the benefits of something like that, and it's going to require them to change their methodology of instruction and grading. So I think in that context, it'll take some time, particularly for the older generation of instructors. What I'm hearing on a widespread basis is the younger generation of pilots and instructors are embracing the data. They want to know what it shows them about their own performance.
Interesting. Yeah. Cedric.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start always with a benefit. For me, it's more a question of why using AI if you're not going to actually bring some benefits to it. So, and the interesting part with AI and again generative AI or machine learning or whatever is under the term of AI is the ability to answer the need of some very specifically. So, for example, if we take Gen Z, the ability for us to create personalized learning training for that group of pilots by actually enabling micro learning, for example, and focusing specifically on their training needs and the training that they actually need to fix and get to the next step on the journey to become an airline pilot, or when they are an airline pilot to become a captain. And that translates in efficiency gain, in faster training, less repetitive simulations. That's a very very well received benefits, as I would say. And the challenge, I would go definitely on what Rick was saying, is, well, I'll turn it around and say it's the trust and the adoption side of AI that is actually the most important aspect of it, is demonstrating to the user, the instructor, or actually the pilot, that one, they can trust the answer to it. And it's not going to happen overnight. It just need to actually be that we need to show everybody that it works, and then it actually provide them with very consistent answer, very standardized and match the standards that they are actually using, that they can trust it, they can adopt it without second thoughts, because the data is private, because there is a high level of security behind it, because it's based on standards that are actually well received. So those are the challenge and the benefit that actually works together. But I like to think that there is more, that there is some level of benefits here that drive all of this and basically provide us with the answers that we need to the challenges as well.
Are we seeing pilots themselves, let's say pilots, finding ways to exploit AI to help their learning without their organizations? This is for everyone, really.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that they are actually logging onto ChatGPT and started doing some things on it, and one day he gives them the right answer, and then the next day he doesn't give the right answer, and that's a problem. That if you don't have a structure behind using AI, then that's where the trust and the adoption things start to actually get eroded because of the lack of consistency that you actually get.
Yeah.
So
maybe that points to organizations having to do something anyway, so to make sure they can give trusted advice and training. I mean, Colin, you're working in that sort of area, aren't you, about delivering more controlled?
Yeah, that's exactly it, I think, and Cedric's clearly from experience, right? So the danger is in organizations, people will use ChatGPT or something, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're in a safety critical area and it gives you because it actually says in the terms and conditions, do not use this for safety critical activities. It's not designed to help you run a nuclear power station or tell you how to fly a specific aircraft. It'll tell a high school kid generically how an aircraft might work and be very, very good for your homework. And if you're just trying to understand basic concepts like aerodynamics, if you're, say, starting up a specific aircraft, then it will almost certainly be wrong and might probably be dangerous. But actually, a lot of the advantages, and as Cedric quite rightly says, where is the benefit? Because generative AI is kind of a neat parlor trick normally, and it does some cool stuff, and it'll write you a haiku, and it's great fun. But then, how do we take that tool and apply it in a sort of I guess in a serious way where it's dependable? And that is the challenge in terms of what we do. But some of the work we're doing in terms of automating the training needs analysis process. So training analysis, training design is a huge activity that has not been automated in really any real way. And the new tools, I say a bit like the Industrial Revolution when we automated the manufacture of things, right? And suddenly, from rather than making needles one by one, we were to make sort of 100,000 in a week. And this is the same. The new crop of tools allow us to do effectively process work on text and documents, which we weren't able to do before. And that, if we think about the type of work people do, if we say, right, take a source document and analyze that and turn that into a training course, at the moment only humans can do that. Can we use AI to do that, which takes away that quite lengthy and tedious process, really? And it's got to get it right. Right? Or if it doesn't get it right, it flags an error and says, please check. So building those processes that we can rely on and demonstrably audit, that's the interesting bit. But there's lots of talk of killer robots, right? And I think yes, you can. You were worried about the Terminator type problem, but actually, I think the real revolution is going to be on the dreary work that we trying to get away from. So yeah.
So interesting. The point about organisations making sure these work. Have any of the panel got experience of organisations that are, in a sense, trying to certify these new tools that are coming along and maybe tackle some of the issues like the ethics, the data security, of course, in some sectors as well? Are there people trying to get a real grip of this, or is it still experimental?
I think it's past the experimental stage at this point. Like at least for us, it's, and I know from some of our competitors as well, it's having the ability to go in front of a customer and say it's trustworthy, it's fair, it's unbiased, the adoption principle is well defined, we meet the security standards for data, GDPR or other, and we have an AI governance on top of all of it. is becoming more and more like, I know for us it's a huge part of our development cost, because if we don't do this, then there is no way we're going to be able to convince customers to use the AI in a way that actually makes sense, and well, they should actually do it. So I think there's more and more companies doing it. It's a little bit still the wild west a little bit, but I think we're going back to something a little bit more structured. And the point about certifying AI, this is where I think there's a gap here. Like, certifying an AI to do what? To be an instructor instead of another instructor. That is like, we're not going there at all at this point. The AI that is a media or other AI have to be looked at today as an assistant, as a help, as an enabler of efficiency. Replacing an instructor in an aircraft, on the ground school, or thing like there is today, well-defined rules as what is an instructor, what is a ground school instructor. EASA has defined that very well. So if someone wants to actually do an AI, then they know where to go, and they can find a certification attached to it. There's no need to actually reinvent the wheel here. Now, if the AI can do it, great, but it has to be proven.
So we can exploit the AI within existing structures and regulations, certainly in civil aviation. I mean, Rick, are you seeing the same things?
Yeah, I think what made people nervous early on with ChatGPT was hearing about things like hallucinations. That if Chat didn't know the answer, it would make something up, which obviously is very concerning in a safety critical mission environment. The aviation agencies, EASA and FAA, are trying to address that governance. EASA has been at it since they put together a task force in 2018. They've already come out with 2 versions of their AI roadmap, as well as concept papers on machine learning and so forth. FAA started later, finally came out with their first conceptual roadmap just last year. I don't know if that activity is being stalled by the current chaos, but I wouldn't expect a lot of new developments early on from FAA. But they are trying to put together that kind of framework for the aviation community to follow. And as we all know, when it comes to training, most organizations don't do anything if it's not specifically authorized and providing training credits, whether it's a device or a methodology. So it's going to take a while for this all to play out, but clearly there's a huge emphasis on it. There's a lot of money being thrown in. The number I heard for 2028 was over 600 billion worldwide. Aviation community much smaller, but still accelerating at a rapid pace.
Yeah, it's extraordinary amounts of money going into this, so presumably will have some impact. One would hope. Moving on to our sort of final part of our conversation. Obviously, again, with this, all these issues are for long debate and discussion. But I just want to put yourself in the, you're maybe a consultant. Well, maybe you are a consultant, and you're briefing senior leaders. What do you think, in a kind of lift pitch, elevator pitch, what do you think senior leaders should do? Obviously, the focus is more on the learning side of their business, not everything. But although obviously, I don't want to lead you, but actually AI, because AI is affecting everything, maybe people need education in AI itself. Would you, Cedric, would you mind saying, you'll give an idea what, in a way, to help our listeners and viewers? What do you think they should do?
Maybe it's my military background that come back into it as well. But for us, it's a step-by-step approach that we follow. We have a very structured way, maybe sometimes too structured, I don't know. But it's, first of all, don't go into AI and saying that AI is going to do everything for you. We always recommend to do a small step approach, phased approach, where you clearly see the benefits of using AI into your solution. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to be deploying AI on my 2,000 pilots and do all my recruitment in one go, and tomorrow I'll be all that. No, just small, one fleet, one type of pilot, maybe the FO to the captain, maybe the recruitment, maybe like just small thing that actually have a direct impact, and you can prove it has an incremental effect to your operation, and you can prove how it works. So start with pilot programs in mainly. Focus on, and then after this is just training, change management. So a lot of it is going to require change management because because AI changed the way things are a little bit done, and not necessarily for a bad thing, but you just need to actually people need to be educated about it. Instructors, pilots, management needs to be educated about it. There's a reason why in the EU Act, which is there's a sentence buried somewhere, provider of AI solution is to actually provide an AI awareness course. There's a reason why they put that in. I think it's a good thing for once. Maybe it's an act that we can actually use. So that is actually a good part of it. So that's our deployment scenario. Use a small, pilot program that have a direct impact, and is focused on making sure everybody understand the AI, what is going to give you the solution, the benefit, like the unbiasedness, the fairness, the trust, the explainability as well. Like you can actually go in and clearly see the benefits and explain things very easily, and then do your change management accordingly. So those are the steps that we tend to follow. Seems to be working quite well, but I must admit that everybody wants to accelerate those steps, and as soon as you accelerate them, you miss that step, and then things get a little bit more interesting. But yeah, it's that's the thing we follow. We do.
It's a people and process thing as much as the technology. Colin, I mean, you obviously got a lot of customers. Is this similar things you say to them?
Yeah, look, I think the people we are talking to, so people who work with airlines or in the military, are naturally probably a little bit cautious and circumspect because they realize there's a lot of hype and a lot of claims being made, and I think that's good. So when we're working with organizations, it sounds a bit like Cedric, you don't want to roll out the first thing and it be lose trust and the faith of the user. If the first application you roll out basically is rubbish, then you've kind of lost everything, and they're going to take a long time to come back to you. Maybe they're going to come to someone else that can do it right. So I think Cedric's right, taking those small steps and not trying to oversell this, just saying, look, let's find some small ways that this can easily help you and gain that trust and understanding. As you say, it's not a magic box. It'll do some things well, it'll do some things badly. It'll do things badly if it's not set up in the right way. But the biggest limiting factor at the moment is access to the right data. And if this is helped by, say, an airline or the military using a training management system, but just because a training management system exists doesn't mean I can access the data. I've got to do quite a lot of work to extract that, understand what formats. I mean, we're doing a project at the moment, and there's an application, it's in use, brilliant. So data is going in, information is going into this thing, that's great, and it's all validatable, but us to be in a format we can use it and apply it to the process, we've got to do quite a bit of work. So that's going to be I think it's not a world where you can just download an application and it just magically works with your data. And that's the work that probably needs, I don't know, quite a few more companies like Cedric's and ours that are going to go in and help organizations do that. Whether it's in a sort of a very specific niche or just generally, but it's no different to what we've been trying to do for years, but now we've got a good reason for it.
And Rick, are you a similar?
What I've been talking to people a lot about in my research is a shared data lake. These gentlemen have been talking about the challenges of developing valid data for particular training applications. And what I see out there is a lot of people maybe duplicating effort in small spaces. And is there some way that we can share that data for the common good? I look, for example, at CAE, which has nearly 900 simulators in their training network. They've got something like 2.5 or 3 petabytes of data available to them from those simulators. And now with biometrics and so forth, they're generating even more data. Okay. I'd love to see that available to other organizations that fly similar aircraft. I'd love to see flight schools, which don't necessarily have the means of creating their own data pool. I'd love to see them be able to tap into a common data pool. Now, Abba Dogra, who's the CTO at CAE, told me that one of the big problems is we don't have an open data exchange, or we don't have the standards between OEMs and their service providers. So you've got to put that kind of structure in place of people using common formats and so forth, so that everybody can use that data. But
Yes.
that would kind of be my grail to see in the industry, is all of these experimentations get put out there as best practices, and then we combine those into something that everybody can use.
That's a great point about open source and formatted data. Yeah,
I
very
mean,
interesting.
Rick,
Yeah.
it's interesting. We've got direct experience of this, and I think it's pretty common that I think a lot of simulators actually, when the simulator session and simulator shut down, the data goes away and is lost. Now, where it is recorded, the problem is it might be without context. So if a pilot flew a certain pattern or a soldier acted in a certain way within the simulation, well, what were the orders given? What was the intent? What were they meant to do? And if you don't know what they were meant to do, you don't know if they did it right. So often that bit, now that could be the instructor notes, the scenario could be the voice or the audio, whatever that is. And even if you had that, it's not labeled in a way that the AI can use it.
Yeah.
So I think even though people think they're sat on a lot of data, what we tend to find is it's not very valuable. It's not much use, or very, very limited use, because you haven't thought ahead of what you're going to use the data for. So yeah, there's a big challenge there. And which is what AI companies are struggling with. They're kind of getting to a point where, well, they are getting to a point where just because data is on the internet doesn't mean it's any good. You've got to validate that answer or the information in that data set is good, or what it's for. And that's the challenge, is effectively curating that. But if this starts as a catalyst for organizations thinking about that, then that's a good thing. And that's certainly the work we're doing with the military at the moment, is starting now, right? If we want AI to help us, what do we need to capture in the data sets now for the future? Forget about what's happened for now. That's probably not going to help.
Yeah, I just attended I had a World Data Symposium, I think, here in Dublin. And IATA has a structure today where they collect data and actually provide that data to all the airlines. They provide, flight data, and that's why they're able to actually identify tail strike and runway incursions and data. So they've got this data. Maybe if CAE should actually have a little chat with the Airline Group guys that have actually put this infrastructure in place. They've got three big data sets that are available. I'm not entering into the commercial ways.
It started here, trying to join things up a bit. No, great. That's a fantastic point.
Just on that, you're right, Cedric, there are data sets that are out there that can be shared, and there are good models for that. Met Office is one. Then there are, OpenStreetMap, right? There are lots of good models for this.
Yeah.
But there's many areas in training, as you probably were aware, that the data isn't collected in a way that's useful for sharing or even useful for AI.
Yeah.
It's just
We're against time, but there's so much to talk about. But that was really insightful points. I'm going to ask you a question, probably totally unfair, and you're probably in the wrong business, but we're looking to do another one of these in the early summer. And between now and then, what are you looking forward to in the AI world? Is there anything coming along that maybe it may be a conference, or it may be listening to this, but some technology? Briefly, say, Rick, is there anything coming along in this that people should look out for that's going to be really interesting?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Watts conference in early April. I think we've got more than 20 speakers who are going to address AI, big data, relation to competency-based training, and so forth. But what I'm seeing is the transition from experimentation of let's try this, let's try that, to more of a focus of what's the most valuable, what's the most relevant. So if you've got people like Thales doing the Percival project that's supported by the French Aviation Authority, they're looking at 10 or 11 different biometric type sensors. So I expect what'll come out of that is some guidance that says this sensor is valuable for this, this one's valuable for this. Don't bother to collect this third and fourth one because it's not going to contribute anything of significance. So I think as people hone in on what's valuable in their domain, then you will see both that focused data collection and the structure so that it's useful to a wide variety of people.
Great, thank you, Rick. Colin, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the conferences. No, I think on the conferences, the interesting thing is that I think we're moving from a lot of people talking about the vision and what could be, and sort of thinking about sort of a futurist way, to right, we've done something. Here are the details. This is our method, and I think those talks are more important because people being open about what works and what doesn't is really key. We don't need to do the sales pitch. We're not actually selling models. We're not selling AI even. We're trying to find a way to make things better, make things easier. If I find a way to do something that doesn't use AI, I'm still happy, as long as it helps the customer. But I think with all of this, cutting through the noise is about saying, right, I'm picking Watts as example because why not? If someone comes up and says, well, we've done this in this area, in this field of pilot training, and these are the downsides, and this is what we did, and this is how we got it working, that's really going to be where the value is, and sharing that knowledge. Now, you'd say, well, isn't that sort of letting your competitors in on a secret? Well, yeah, sometimes, but actually technology is moving so fast that by the time they figured out what you've done, you're probably on to the next thing. So I think that it's important that we all sort of collaborate on this, because otherwise I think this is going to be a bit of a, well, wasn't that an interesting idea, but nothing came out of it. If we share the ideas and the methods, then we're gonna all benefit.
A rising tide supports many boats.
Yeah.
Cedric, finally, what do you think? What are you looking for? Do you think our listeners should be looking forward to?
Yeah, Watts definitely is going to be very interesting for us. We're starting capturing a lot of feedback from customers that are using our media, and it's very, very interesting. So we're going to have to actually address this in the next, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, whatever the time frame is. Not all of it is actually related to that. Our technical is just a simple thing, like how do I get the data, the right data? We just talked about it earlier. Like, how do I get the right data into the AI so that the AI can actually give me back the information that I need? And at the moment, there's some work to be done there. There's a few things that I'm looking forward on the technology side of things, which is really interesting things. Agentic AI, Lang chain, LangMem, those type of things that probably, it's probably very, very technical. But for us, it's going to make a difference in terms of what we can do with it. And what we'll be interested is mapping the issues that the airline or the flight school or the recruitment team is actually experiencing today with those new type of AI that are, let's call it type of AI that are coming available. That's going to be really, really interesting, and to see what we can do and how we can actually help those resolve those issues. And then third is not nearly as exciting as you would think, but providing a regulatory framework or an AI governance around, joining a little bit what Colin was saying, like try to actually find our way into collaborating around an AI governance for training or for recruitment or for aviation in general will go a long, long way to help us add value to or basically provide solution to the airline and the flight school.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the next 6 months, I didn't know what was going to happen 6 months ago. So telling you what's going to happen in the next 6 months, I have no idea. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Only AI could help us. Right. Well, those some great points then. Just for our listeners, so WATS is a leading World Aviation Training conference, which is soon, isn't it? I don't know exactly, but that's run by Halldale. And of course, at the end of this month, we've got iTech, which is more on the defence side in Oslo. So, which we're covering, MS&T is covering that conference. So I'm sure AI will, as among other things, will come up be extremely interesting time. And as I said earlier, we're hoping to run another one of these in the early summer. And also we'd be really happy to get your feedback on these events, how we could make them better for you, help you navigate this world of AI. So I think we've covered a lot of interesting things. I'm not going to give a full summary, but I think data has come up a lot about formatting, about sharing it, even data lakes, extremely interesting. Also ideas of, yes, there is experimentation, that's really important, but in many places we're past that. We're already, organizations already doing it. I think my other huge conclusion is that do nothing is not an option. So people have got to do something in this new world we're in. So I want to thank Halldale for organising this, Patrick, who organised this. I want to thank our fantastic expert speakers, Rick Adams, Colin Hillier, and Cedric Paillard. So that's the end. As I said, welcome your feedback. Thank you very much.